Okay, so Prabowo Subianto, Indonesia's new president.
Right.
It's quite a story. I mean, you think about it, this guy's life. It's like part Shakespeare, part, uh, you know, House of Cards,
Wow.
exile, military controversy, and then boom, leader of one of the most populous countries on earth.
I think what's really interesting is you can't separate Prabowo from Indonesia's own story. It's
Yeah.
all right there, the political chaos, the military, the whole dance of power and ambition.
So rewind to the beginning. This isn't some like rags to riches tale. Prabowo, he's born into, well, basically Indonesian royalty.
Yeah, his family, they were the elite. I mean, his grandfather helped found Bank Negara Indonesia, and his father, Sumitro Jojo Hadikusumo, big-time economist.
And then it all flips.
Right. Prabowo's father, he gets mixed up in this rebellion against President Sukarno. And just like that, the family's exiled. Prabowo, he's just a kid, bouncing around from Singapore to Hong Kong, Switzerland, even the UK.
Wow. Imagine that childhood. Every few years, new country, new language.
It had to be disorienting. But, it also exposed him to the world, different ideas, different ways of doing things, probably shaped how he sees everything.
Well then, talk about a comeback story. Suharto takes over, and the family returns. Prabowo's 20, and he joins the military. Not just any unit, the Indonesian Military Academy.
That's a statement right there. Not just serving, he's aiming for the top.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
Especially with the military's power in Indonesia.
Exactly.
He moves up fast, ends up in Kopassus, Indonesia's elite special forces.
Hmm.
Tough training, reputation for, well, let's say effectiveness.
Yeah, Kerpassus, they're respected. But there's a darker side, too. A lot of accusations about human rights. And this is where things get tricky with Prabowo.
Yeah, East Timor. He's deployed there. It was under Indonesian occupation then. Lots of tension, independence movements, the whole thing.
And Prabowo's actions there, they've come under serious scrutiny. Commanders, during a time when, well, there were allegations of massacres, militias used to crush the independence movement.
There are even whispers about his unit being involved in Nicolau Lobato's assassination. Lobato was like a key figure in the resistance. These are serious accusations that have stuck with him, even led to that travel ban to the U.S., remember?
Right, and it's around this time he marries Siti Hadiati Haryati, Suharto's daughter.
Talk about being in the inner circle.
Oh, yeah, he's right at the heart of it all. Military power, political power, the whole package.
The shadows are still there, right? East Timor keeps coming up. And then 98 hits. Suharto's regime, it's falling apart. Protests everywhere. People demanding democracy.
And Prabowo, he gets tangled up in this really dark chapter, the abduction and torture of activists who were pro-democracy.
Chilling stuff. Some of his men, they were convicted, but Prabowo never faced trial. And to this day, 13 of those 23 activists still missing.
It's a heavy thing to carry.
That was the end of his military career. Dishonorable discharge, exile in Jordan. Apparently, he became friends with King Abdullah years earlier, back when they were both training at Fort Benning.
Interesting choice, Jordan. But it shows you he can build those relationships even in the most unexpected places.
So he lays low for a while, but in 2008, he's back. And get this, he decides to run for president.
Bold move, considering everything that had happened.
Ambitious, right? He loses to Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono in 2009. Doesn't stop him, though. 2014, he goes up against Joko Widodo. Jokowi, as everyone knows him, loses again.
Yeah, and that time the reaction was, concerning, to say the least. Refused to accept the results. Protests, legal challenges, it didn't go anywhere. The Constitutional Court rejected it all. But still, it raised some red flags.
Yeah, not exactly a commitment to democracy there.
Exactly. It makes you wonder about his real goals.
Yeah, so here we are, a life of extremes, controversy at every turn, and this relentless drive for power. But how does this guy with all this baggage actually become president?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. The 2019 election, it's another twist in the story that nobody saw coming.
So 2019, another election, Prabowo versus Jokowi, round 2. Tensions are high, the country's divided.
And he loses again. But here's the twist. Instead of, crying foul, disputing the results, Prabowo concedes. And Jokowi, he offers him a cabinet position.
Minister of Defense. Talk about a surprise. Some people thought it was brilliant. Jokowi neutralizing a rival, bringing stability. Others saw it as, almost betraying those democratic ideals Jokowi campaigned on.
Yeah, it was a gamble for sure. Keep your friends close.
Right. But it felt like more than that. Almost a stepping stone, setting the stage for his own eventual presidency.
And then the next move, even bolder. 2024 rolls around, and Prabowo chooses Jokowi's own son, Gibran, as his running mate.
Wow. the ultimate endorsement. Jokowi was still incredibly popular. It's like game over for the other candidates. But there was still one big question mark, the young voters. They didn't remember his past, the whole military thing.
Yeah, how do you win them over? Well, this is where the campaign gets really interesting. They completely rebrand Prabowo. Forget the stern general. He's now like cuddly grandpa.
Cuddly grandpa. For real.
Oh, yeah. Memes, TikTok dances, even his cat, Bobby, gets an Instagram account. The whole Gmoy squad thing. Gmoy means like adorable in Indonesian slang. It was genius, really.
Indonesia has a huge young population, and they're all online. So it worked. People forgot about the controversies.
It definitely softened his image, made him relatable to a generation that cares more about, viral trends than old political battles. So he wins, becomes president. Everyone seems happy. For a while, at least. But then things get a little murky. It's like there are two Prabowas, the grandpa everyone loves and, well, the guy from the past.
And which one's actually calling the shots? That's the question.
Exactly. There have been some things, some decisions, some statements that have made people nervous, like that speech at the D8 summit in Cairo.
Oh, right. The one where you basically accused the West of, like, disrespecting the entire Muslim world, ignoring their concerns.
Yeah, that one. Pretty strong words. He said the human rights movement, it's biased against Muslims, that the West only cares about human rights when it's convenient for them. It caused a huge stir. Even Erdogan, the Turkish president, walked out.
Yeah, it made headlines everywhere. And then there were those comments about corruption, saying corrupt officials could just, like, quietly return the money they stole and he might pardon them.
That didn't go over well. A lot of people saw it as breaking his promises, undermining the whole anti-corruption effort in Indonesia.
It was confusing, right? On one hand, he's authorizing raids on financial institutions, tough on corruption, but then he's saying, hey, maybe there's a back door for some people.
It felt like he was trying to play both sides, keep everyone happy. And then there's the whole thing about regional leaders. He wants to appoint them instead of having direct elections.
That's a big deal. Direct elections, that was a huge win for democracy after Suharto.
Yeah, people saw it as a step backwards. Like, is he trying to consolidate power, bring back a more authoritarian style of government?
And let's not forget about Gibran, his vice president. He was too young, right, under the constitutional age limit.
Yeah, he was 36. You have to be at least 40 to be president or vice president.
So what happened?
The Constitutional Court, where, coincidentally, Jokowi's brother-in-law is the Chief Justice, they ruled that the age limit only applies when you take office, not when you're elected. A convenient loophole, some might say.
So it's all a bit messy, right? Talking tough on the world stage, advocating for Muslim countries, but back home, maybe not so committed to democracy and the rule of law.
It's complicated. He's pushing big economic plans like that new capital city, Nusantara in Borneo, but then he's doing these things that make people worry.
Like he's trying to have it both ways. Be the strong leader, but also ride on Jokowi's coattails, Jokowi being the reformer, the champion of democracy. It's a tough balancing act.
Exactly. Can he keep it up? Who knows?
So we've covered a lot, the rise to power, the controversies, the mixed signals. But what about his actual plans for Indonesia? Where does he want to take the country?
That's the big question. And there's a lot to unpack there, from the new capital city to foreign policy to, well, just about everything. We'll need a whole other deep dive to get into all of that.
Okay, so we've talked about Prabowo's journey, the controversies, the mixed messages. But where's he taking Indonesia? What's the big vision?
Well, one place to look is that Nusantara project, the new capital city they're building in Borneo. $32 billion, massive undertaking.
It's almost like science fiction, right?
Yeah.
A futuristic city popping up in the middle of the jungle.
Huh?
All eco-friendly, high-tech.
Yeah, very ambitious. The idea is to get away from Jakarta, all the overcrowding, the pollution. Nusantara is supposed to be this model city. Renewable energy, efficient transportation, green spaces, the whole package.
But a project that big, there's got to be pushback. The environment, the cost, people getting displaced.
Right, those are big concerns. The rainforest, indigenous communities, the cost, especially when so many Indonesians are struggling.
Some people even say it's just a vanity project. Prabowo wanting to leave his mark, instead of focusing on what people actually need right now.
Yeah, some see it that way. But Prabowo, he argues it'll create jobs, bring in investment, boost the economy, ultimately benefit everyone.
Big gamble. And it's not the only one he's taking. His foreign policy is pretty bold, too. Standing up for Muslim countries, challenging the West.
That D8 speech, it was a statement for sure. He wants Indonesia to be a leader, especially in the Muslim world.
Some people worry it'll backfire,
Yeah.
damage relationships with Western countries. hurt the economy.
It's a risk, definitely. But it also shows how much confidence a lot of developing countries have now. Especially in the Muslim world, they're not just following the West anymore, they're asserting themselves.
And Prabowo is riding that wave, right?
Yeah.
Presenting Indonesia as this bridge between the West and the Muslim world. A country that can speak for developing nations but still work with the big powers.
It's a tough line to walk.
It seems like everything with Prabowo is a balancing act. His past and his present, what he does at home versus abroad, his ambition versus, actually dealing with the country's problems.
It's a good example of, well, what it means to be a leader in this day and age. Balancing the economy and the environment, globalization and national identity, progress and inequality. It's not easy.
So what's the bottom line? Is Prabowo the visionary leader who'll take Indonesia to the next level? Or is he just a pragmatist? Someone who will prioritize stability and growth, even if it means bending the rules a little.
I don't think there's a simple answer. Only time will tell. But one thing's clear. Prabowo Subianto is a fascinating character. He's going to keep shaping Indonesia for a long time. His story is still being written, full of surprises, contradictions. It's a wild ride.
And we've got the best seats in the house. Whether you like them or not, you can't deny it's a gripping story. Ambition, power, a country trying to find its place in the world. We've just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore. Who knows what's coming next?